some time here, as Maokai is finally going to be banned away. Not entirely sure what Mouse is going to be playing there towards the top side of the map. I find it interesting the fact that now that Trundle, unable to be QSS-able anymore, Koro's sort of big champion, 6.10 has seen a little bit of a resurgence of him, although he was still quite strong. Now not playing with the Trundle man himself. We'll see how Mouse goes as he steps into those shoes. Big shoes to fill here as well, despite the fact that he was slumping towards the end. And Kindred is going to be the follow-up ban here from Newbee. So just a lot of generally strong champions across the last 4 or 5 patches.
Should be noted, though, that Graves is still up and available, as we do see a hover priority for Lucian.
Yeah.
But Clear Love was amazing on Graves in the RNG versus EDG LPL final. Looked fantastic on that champion, prioritized it a lot of times over the likes of Nidalee and Kindred, so would expect to see him go that route.
We'll see exactly what he does do, because of course, like you said, both Kindred and Nidalee taken away. Rek'Sai being looked at right now as well. Interesting. I actually really liked the Lucian hover just because, you know, with alternate build paths that you do have, Trundle, of course, like we mentioned before, still strong, can go into that support position, and Mako has shown a lot of prowess. They are going to lock that one away. So flexible, although, you know, the support position Trundles haven't been as popular recently.
And that's the perfect place to start, is the idea of a flex pick, that's what Trundle's acting for. Likewise, we have Maokai and Echo taken out of priority, so that pretty much leaves Poppy left. We don't really know what Mouse's champion pool looks like. He was a support player, so Trundle would certainly kind of fit in that MO. And you already brought up the removal and the adjustments to QSS make Trundle much stronger, just because there's no way that you can deal with that subjugate right now.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Speaking of not being able to deal with things, Zed has been missed out on the ban list. We haven't necessarily seen him picked very much internationally, but we've seen a lot of bans towards the champion. And when you've got Dade on a team, you should probably mention Zed, as the bottom lane is being looked at for Newbee at the moment. Of course, Newbee with the last pick potential as well, so could be saving that for Dade, and we'll see what he does want to pick up, as Scout will have to blind pick that mid lane most likely. 2 seconds to go. Looks like Happy and Moore are going to have pretty powerful bottom lane to start things off, and very flexible as well.
Yeah, pretty much the staple for Moore right there. He always goes back to the Braum. Really helps him put his face in it.
Well, Alistair has been banned, so Braum almost has to be picked if we go historically.
Likewise, he's going to work really well in tandem with Lucian, just because of Lucian's ability to proc that concussive blows.
Yeah.
We've seen the big Korean Black Cleaver Ghostblade build going around for Lucian, which has made him surge in popularity and win rate. See if Happy or Pekko wants to go that route. And I actually don't think that it makes sense that EDG wouldn't prioritize Lucian as a first pick despite his success and Deft's comfort on him, because we know that Deft has that pocket Twitch pick, which was shown on the MSI stage to be a counter to Lucian.
Well, that's exactly right. And we'll see whether he is going to lock that one away. But as of now, Rek'Sai and Karma have been picked up. Of course, Karma a little bit flexible here as well. There are a lot of things that could be potentially going into the bottom lane, not including the Rek'Sai.
So the cool thing about Karma, as we saw her played in Korea yesterday as well, is that movement speed has been inherently nerfed.
Yeah.
The removement of enchantments on your boots and the likes of this distortion, especially kind of like the really big one, Alacrity, makes any champion that makes you run faster, I mean, it's just a slower, everyone's just slower.
Yeah.
So Karma works out pretty well. Sivir is actually still available, and we saw a lot of Sivir bans in Korea yesterday as well, so that's also another option that Deft has.
Most certainly is, and with Maokai being on the ban list as well, no Vengeful Maelstrom there to stop a lot of that AoE damage. Azir as well has slipped entirely through this draft.
And they also have 2 flex picks. That's the other big thing about Karma, is that she can still be slotted into that support or that mid position.
Yeah.
And that is a Swain.
Yeah, Swain has been locked in, so could be going to V, could be going to Dade.
I'm pretty sure it's going to V. I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I was curious about the Swain, so I'm very excited to see what Newbee will do with him.
I actually really like it into Trundle there as well. Of course, Trundle notoriously kiteable, and if anyone wants to kite you, it is most definitely Swain. Champions without sort of instant gap closing ability can generally struggle against the man, but we are going to have the Caitlyn and the Azir locked in. So much AoE DPS out of EDG right now, and I say DPS just because they have so much consistent damage in both of these threats from relative safety.
Yeah, it's a big kite team, effectively. You have Trundle there for the disengage with his Triller to make sure Triller with his pillar to make sure that Newbee can't dive out on top of them. And if you actually look at Newbee's composition, something that they're struggling with is their hard engage, especially against the reset potential and the kite ability of Trundle, Karma, and Azir. It's going to be really hard for Newbee to ever catch them. They're effectively praying for Swift to get a god tier insec or for V to get a root.
Yeah, or, you know, a Flash Glacial Fissure to start things off there on the side
Still
of Mùa.
used as more of like a disengage or kind of like a disruption
Especially
as opposed to like a hard CC. Yeah.
It's a very good point, but I do like the comp as far as consistency as well. We know Victor very, very powerful there in the mid lane at the moment, of course. Chaos Storm getting a relative buff with the fact that it does a heck of a lot of damage over time now. You cannot just stand in it after he's thrown down all of his spells because it will kill you.
Exactly. And the other cool thing about Victor is he wasn't really affected by any of the itemization changes just because his core remained relatively unchanged. He got a bit more cost efficiency to it. But if you think a lot of mages are looking towards the Phoenix Codex for 900 gold, it messes up with their back timers just because it's more expensive. Whereas Victor, 4 waves, 1,000 gold, it's another day in the office. I'm going back for my Hex core.
It's exactly right. And of course, the Azir hasn't changed a lot as well, just considering that, because he likes the Rylai's, he likes the Nash's Tooth. 2 items that haven't changed at all either. And of course, maybe a little bit happier that there's not going to be as much static movement speed, but otherwise still in a great spot. So we're going to see a bit of a normal mid lane matchup. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get onto the riff for game number 1 of LPL Split 2 2016. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the rift for game number 1 of Split 2 of the LPL. It is Newbee taking on EDG. EDG are going to be on our blue side. First up, as Dade debuts himself into 2016 on the Victor, a champion that he was favoring quite a lot. Of course, was very, very popular when he was playing for M3 last time we saw him.
The irony that Newbee come out front-loaded with the Victor, and it's not Doinby at the wheel.
I'm really excited to see Swain here as well, because of course, we've heard a lot of things. I think just based off win rate alone, top lane Swain at the moment, very, very strong in the old solo queue. But we'll see how he goes here in the LPL for our first match. We are going to have a look at the Keystone Masteries here. Deathfire Touch, pretty standard stuff for the Swain. If you got those dots, picking that one up is definitely a good idea. We'll make him a massive late game threat. Anything else standing out here for you, Proskar?
No, everything looks fairly standard. I'm actually more surprised that the teams aren't opting into a lane swap. EDG and Newbee never really had the disposition for lane swaps if you look back to their spring split, but we've seen a lot of that happening in Korea, but it looks like it's going to be standard 2v2.
Yeah, and who do we think that this will favor? Of course, historically, it has been that EDG give them standard lanes and they will just run over the top of you. Do you think that that will change now that the solo laners are different?
Typically, when EDG would opt into the 2v2, it's like you said, this idea that they're going to elongate the lanes. They had one of the longest, or I guess I should say latest.
Just took the Gromp.
That's unfortunate. Latest tower drops of any team in the LPL, and it was really to create space for Clearlove to just fight the enemy jungler. But this time around, he's looking at Swift. And you have to remember, Clearlove and Swift really haven't played across from each other. QG were on the opposite side of group stage from EDG all last split. So Clearlove and Swift only faced off once last year.
And of course, were unable to play that semifinals match that they should have in order to get EDG into the final against RNG. Torment coming out here from the Swain as V is putting on a little bit of pressure. Of course, Mouse with a fair bit of sustain considering the King's tribute. He should be okay, but as we can see, already relatively oppressive utilizing that range.
Yeah, other thing to note is not opting into a lane swap. So the thing that I love about Lucian and why I think that he's a #1 priority carry is we actually do see a ping for Clearlove possibly looking for an invade. I actually think he's just going to secure this Scuttle Crab since his laners are pushing up in the bottom lane. Is that Lucian performs really well in a 2v2 as well as a lane swap. A lot of people don't see Lucian as a sieging champion, but he actually can take down towers quite well with his double tap passive, and I feel like that's what really cements him as kind of the top tier AD carry right now. Bit of a chase scenario going on. Yeah. Slowest moving chase in the world.
Clearlove, of course, quite large health bars, meaning that Swift probably not going to be able to kill him necessarily, but that's exactly what he's going to eventuate here. His Death Ray is going to nail Scout, but of course a lot of wave clear here in this mid lane. A lot of safety as well with both of these champions being able to farm at range. I have a feeling we're not going to see too much from them for now, as we can see that the blue buff has yet to be taken. We'll see where the Scout actually picks up the first one. Rek'Sai known to not necessarily need blue buff at all. The 15% extra AP that you now get on the 6.10 patch, also completely irrelevant to a Rek'Sai.
No, but it actually means a lot for the mid laners. So what's really cute is how, like, Infernal Drake and Blue Buff will work together to kind of give you that percentile AP to compensate for the loss of AP on a lot of the control mage items. A lot of them lost between 20 and 30 AP. So effectively, if you have the blue buff and prioritizing that, it simply just makes all of those changes stronger because they all got cheaper and they all got battle passives, and then you compensate for the lost AP by just having the blue buff anyway.
That's exactly right. See how it is going to go. Swift, of course, did take his, and he's actually lurking here towards the top side of the map. You can see Mouse just teleported back in, was getting harassed out by V, who's 22 CS to 15 right now. Mouse has been able to pick up a few underneath this turret, but you can see the Swain being very far up, making sure that he's as oppressive as possible.
That's the correct word for Swain there, is oppressive. He just walks past your caster creeps, hits you with the slow bird.
The slow bird.
The slow bird.
And the now mobile slow bird as well for Oscarin, which is even more frightening.
It's just the worst. Dade getting used to the adjustment to Victor's laser. That's a cute little map. I'm going to assume that's the jungler's heat? No? 80 carry? Some sort of heat sensor. I feel like I'm looking at Predator.
That is where Caitlyn has been at the moment, by the looks of things.
Why would I want to know where Caitlyn's been?
Well, look, we now know that Caitlyn has been in the bottom lane.
I'm like, this is cool. It's going to be the jungle heat map, the 80 carry.
Yeah. Well, look, they almost got there. Let's see whether we are going to see a jungle heat map as we move forward. I have a feeling this will be a relatively robust map. But Scout getting looked at here in the mid lane. Data, you can see relatively low. He's got the movement speed from the Q. The Q is actually going to miss from Swift, though. No Sonic Wave to land, and here comes Clearlove. Swift going to get knocked up. He could be in trouble here as the Lee Sin, not all that strong. Uses the safeguard, gets himself out. No first blood to be had just yet.
Wrong turn there for Swift. He separates from Dada and kind of walks blind into his own jungle without realizing where Clearlove was. Has to know that Scout's going to be running towards safety to exit out of the lane, and good micro movement from Scout. Dodged out the Sonic Wave as well as making sure he gets his dash in time to not connect with the gravitation field.
Yeah, kept his cool completely there. Didn't use the exhaust, didn't use the flash. Now we'll be able to head back to base with a bit of help from Clearlove clearing out that wave, and everything is going to be A-OK. Newbee with about a 200 gold lead just based on farm alone, mostly in that top lane where it's a double CS advantage here for V. Otherwise, everything is fine. Mako just throwing out empowered Qs just to try and annoy the bottom lane of Newbee here. Karma and Caitlyn very, very, like we were talking about oppressiveness before. Swain is that, but Caitlyn and Karma, most certainly that as well.
I was actually going to be curious what Moore was going to take as his mastery on Braum. We saw yesterday Mad Life opting into the Windspeaker's Blessing mastery on Braum to empower his shield a little bit more, whereas a lot of standard Brahms will look for the...
It was Strength of the Ages. Oh, no, sorry. Bond of Stone.
Yes, that one.
He picked up this time around.
There's too many green ones.
I know. Bond of Stone, Strength of the Ages, Grasping Undying. Oh, my...
I'm the worst because I never know the name of anything. I'm just like the green thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to take your health a bit, one. Or I'm going to die a bit when you're dying a bit. As Swift is actually looking for something here towards the bottom side. Mako very low on mana. Jeff flashes out of the way of the Sonic Wave. Now going to turn things around as we do have the W going down from Mako, but Unbreakable is there to stop any problems from Moore. So Swift unsuccessful with the gank attempt, and we'll see what Clearlove can gather from this as the red buff looks to be the option. Clearlove already going to be very sustainable there in that lane.
Round two.
There's the flash in, actually, as the concussive blows come down. Deft in trouble now! Is able to at least get him somewhat further away, but First Blood does go down in favor of Happy. He's relatively low, but Mako just cannot close the gap as Moore is right up in his face.
And no response because Clearlove's across map trading for Raptor Camp. So great job on Swift to look for the turnaround, round two, and punish the fact that Def did not have flash and stepped forward again. But that will be all summoners burned in the bottom lane on the side of Newbee.
Yeah, did his best to try and net himself out of the way, was what I was trying to say previously. Is there's the Emperor's Divide, actually. Dade could be in trouble as Clearlove flashes over the top, wants to get the knock-up, but he's going to be stunned by the gravity field. It doesn't matter, though, as Scout picks up the kill. Swift, not sure whether he's going to be able to get anything back here, as Scout and Clearlove still very healthy.
Yeah, Swift is going to do a drive-by. Kind of an interesting flash from Dade. I think he was trying to flash back towards his gravitational field, try to get some CC lock to exit out of that. Sure, we'll see it on the replay. Okay, Emperor's Divide. Out of the Chaos Storm, flashes across. Yeah, he's just trying to get on the other side.
Yeah, unfortunately, not with quite enough damage. And even after throwing down the Chaos Storm and Scout sitting in it, he's still okay as Clearlove somehow dodges out of the way of everything. As the chair and the Sonic Wave go a little bit wide as he heads through his tunnel.
I believe in the power of Rek'Sai.
Yeah,
I believe in her coming back.
Yeah, I regret everything that I said.
I mean, obviously, Kindred and Nidalee were both banned, so that's the important thing to underline, is I still think that Nidalee is going to be the top-tier jungler just because of her ability and her efficiency to get around the jungle.
Especially when we're talking about these two junglers as well. Clearlove has shown fantastic proficiency on the Nidalee, as well as Swift. Both of these players able to play the carry role if they need to.
And naturally, Swift has such comfort on Lee Sin, probably one of the best Lee Sin players in the LPL. But to pick it into Rek'Sai, for a long time, Rek'Sai was considered kind of a counter to Lee Sin just because of how they'll interact on a micro level. Obviously, the ability to interrupt Q with her unburrow. Yeah. It's not as dominant as it once was with the adjustments, but I know Rusty's actually a big fan of Lee Sin right now.
Oh, the steal comes in for Swift, though. Heads in, grabs himself a blue buff, says, nope, Scout, you ain't getting that. Steals it away.
Rusty's a big fan just because of the change to experience for Lee Sin. Is this the one that I wanted? Yes, the Lee Sin heat map.
Yeah, he's spending a lot of time on the top side of the map by the looks of things, as V is going aggressive on a mouse in the meantime. What can you make of it, Proskeren?
He likes the top side of the map. That's what I got. It's red up there.
Oh, good, I got it right.
Nailed it.
Yeah, well, Net's going to come out here as Deft is looking for something. Mako goes down the focused resolve. Doesn't find too much. Nice Peacemaker. A lot of damage onto Happy there.
Yeah. Still managed to take the BF sword when he was killed, come back, so didn't lose a lot of his power there. That said, you do have the Black Cleaver build.
Yeah, so Ghostblade almost completed here for Happy as well.
That's what I wanted, Ghostblade. Purple sword makes you run fast.
Yep, exactly right. You should know about this, being a previous IG fan, as Clearlove is going to take away the Gromp.
Let's break down this build, why we have a bit of farming going on, although Clearlove is actually postured behind tower, and teleport is available. They're not going to.
Wave clear as well is just going to be used, making sure that Newbee are going to stay safe underneath his turret. Ultimate comes out from Deft as he says, more, go home.
I think they thought about it.
Okay.
I think they thought about the dive, but the fact that both teleports are available and they knew that Swift was on that side.
Oh, you need one of those. You need one of those, I think.
The Hoo-Hee special.
Yeah, not quite able to find it. Is Scout. Never mind. Of course, Dade did not have flash or anything like that, so could have potentially been an easy slide and scoop as Mouse dodges out of the way of the never move, but V just able to sustain up so much of this. Now with the Rod of Ages completed as well, he's not going to have too many mana issues. You can see Mouse actually still struggling here towards the top side, but has managed to get a bunch of that CS back, so hasn't been exactly exponentially exploding that CS gap on the side of V.
So let's talk about the Ghostblade Black Cleaver build, kind of back to this point. Obviously, it's super cost efficient. Your power spike comes very early. It does a ton of damage. The other really cool thing is the fact of how quickly Lucian can stack up the Black Cleaver shred, just because of how quickly he's going to rotate through all of his abilities. But the big thing for me is that CDR then translates into mobility for Lucian, because anytime you build into CDR, it's going to make your Relentless Pursuit come up that much more often, which guarantees you that much more safety. And then the other thing is that he's got a Lee Sin on his side that, you know, doesn't have an 80 top laner. I feel like that would just make it a little bit... Wanted the ribbon.
Yeah, it would have made it a little bit cooler. You're exactly right.
But at least it's got Lee Sin. I mean, we see so many of these Black Cleaver builds coming out of Lucians. They have, like, all magic damage on the rest of their team.
Well, we'll see exactly how it is going to work out. Like you said, regardless of whether or not anyone else is going to be utilizing it, it is still very, very strong. Do you think that it's more of a mid-game build here? Because we have seen some Lucians still going towards that Essence Reaver with the Infinity Edge.
That's
and,
the bigger
like
thing,
the
is the Infinity Edge, as opposed to the Essence Reaver for me. Just making sure that you get that big, high crit probability.
Yeah.
because obviously you don't want to sacrifice in your build. I think Spawn was talking about the difference between like 40% crit versus 70 to 80% crit, and how that's going to really minimize your damage.
That's a really good point. At the moment, we do have the Ghostblade portion completed for Happy. Dade getting a little bit zoned here from Scout, being the oppressive Azir that he is. Almost has the Nash's Tooth, as well as a cheeky Negatron Cloak to keep himself safe against the double AP. We'll see what Clearlove's going to be building up next as well. He may want to grab an Aegis relatively soon.
Got the Cinderhulk up and online.
Yep. Trying to be as tanky as possible.
Yeah, no surprise there, and also opted into the Sightstone. Been a while since we've seen the popularity of Sightstone junglers. Again, this seems so little, but changes to trinkets really affect the vision game. So picking up a Sightstone jungler, having the Tremor Sense available, we'll see if this helps EDG out when we start contesting these Fog of War objectives like Dragon, like Baron, like Rift Herald.
At the moment, we can see that Newbee just continuing to get shoved here on the bottom side of the map. This tower actually taking significant damage as Deft. Speaking of significant damage, he's going to take a fair bit himself. Swift waiting in the wings. Clearlove on this side of the map as well, in clear vision of Newbee, so they know this is most likely going to be a 3v3. More very low underneath his turret. Pings going down as Swift is going to be discovered. Prey Seeker, effectively named here at this stage.
Does manage to spot him out. Again, EDG keep kind of hovering around this idea of diving the bot lane, utilizing the poke that Deft and Mako have put down, but never pulling the trigger, being very cautious and respectful to Swift, and more importantly to V still having that TP on the top side.
You can see Swift actually having to tank an ace in the hole. Deft just throwing that one out basically as soon as up off cooldown, if he has the mana for it. Right now, quite low, is Clearlove going in for Cloud Drake #1. Of course, Elemental Dragons now here in the LPL. We thought that we may see a bit of focus here on the Dragon, but 15 minutes have gone by, and Clearlove now just looking to solo this one out himself. You can see the bottom lane from Newbee had to go back. It's a good time to do it.
Yep, likewise Scout has complete control of the mid lane. Right there. Now Cloud Dragon will give you your movement speed. It's going to start relatively small. I think kind of the general consensus is as Scout gets kicked up.
Yeah, there's the kick. Hugh's going to land there as well as he does make his way over. Nice flash there out of Scout as he may need to use the Emperor's Divide, but it's a little bit late. Chaos Storm going to lock him down, and Dade gets himself on the board.
Too little, too late, but it's 2 flashes traded for Scout's life, and nothing much will really come from this in terms of creating pressure, creating an objective.
Well, we'll see exactly what is. As Dade is continuing to push things out. Mouse
it's gonna
trying to stay healthy, but he can't really. Underneath this turret right now, it's just a struggle.
Yeah, he's slowly but surely losing this lane. And by slowly, I mean 85 CS to 135. And that was the thing that I was going to point out in the mid lane, is that kill effectively translates to a CS discrepancy between the Azir and Victor. I still think Scout's fine simply because Azir can always just stand back and wave clear. But the more immediate problem on the map for EDG is going to be that Trundle. But it's fine because we're in mid-game. Caitlyn's unlocked, roaming around, which means Azir should actually be shuffled into one of these side lanes, although he's walking back up mid.
Yeah, and trying to get the siege on here. You can see Renan's Hurricane now completed here for Deft alongside that BF sword that they like to grab just to make sure that you've got as much flat damage as possible so that all those bolts are doing that a little bit more. Helpful for wave clear there as well. Scout's just going to take away his own blue buff. And hopefully Swift isn't going to be able to take it away from him. He's on the other side of the map, so he should be fine. Yeah,
big adaptation here. It seems to be the priority of trying to get V off of this troll in the top lane as we have Scout also motioning over from his blue buff.
Yeah.
Nope, doesn't look like they're going to go for it.
No, Mouse just trying his very best to actually back here. Recall getting cancelled from that Torment. Happy moving in here towards the bottom side. But the question to me is, I mean, Swain has always been a lane bully. How is this going to translate to sort of the team fighting stage, and what is V going to be used for in the late stage?
Obviously, he's going to bring some, I'm going to call it soft CC. Naturally, he does have his root available to him, but kind of that slow and that big AoE bully presence. I'm more so concerned with what's happening on the map right now, though. There were pings into the bottom side, so EDG should have set this up where Caitlyn moves into the mid lane, Azir takes over for the bot lane, and Caitlyn's now just in charge of slowly chipping away at Dade, forcing him out and chipping away at that mid-tier tower. Instead, EDG will sacrifice their bottom-tier tower to Newbee because they're trying to save Mouse, and they have to move over to V, and it might translate into another second-tier tower and possibly this troll's life.
Yeah, exactly. Mouse actually being forced completely off that minion wave. This tower is not long for the world as Happy, Swift, and more just going to get rid of it. Sonic Wave not going to land, but that is 2 turrets. For 2, I guess, if you count the bottom lane outer turret there for EDG.
And this is simply because Deft and Mako had to move up into the top side, and no one stayed and supported that troll. So good response from Newbee, but just really poor management from EDG on a macro level.
Yeah. And almost throwing away that advantage that they were able to get by organically taking that bottom outer turret.
Pretty much the advantage that Newbee had in V on the top side of the map completely compensated and destroyed the advantage that Deft and Mako had gotten because he forced them to respond.
Yeah. Well, V is going to be able to at least clear out some Cinderlings, but Clearlove once again able to steal away a red buff. His jungle control has been great this game on the Rek'Sai. As Swift is going to make his way over, clearing out some vision. Not going to be able to get rid of that Rift Scuttler, but otherwise things going okay as Clearlove tunneling his way around. Ah, he's spotted you out more. Tremor Sense, pretty powerful tool. As Rift Herald being looked at now from Newbee. Pings are in there for EDG, but you can see Scout going back to base. I have a feeling this is definitely Newbee's to pick up. And we'll see whether they give it to V, whether they utilize some split pushing power out of this Swain.
Now, reminder that Rift Herald has been adjusted. It's going to be a 20-minute buff. The new buff is Glimpse of the Void, and what this will offer Swain is
what a cool name too, right?
Glimpse of the Void is 5% damage reduction when he's alone, and the ability to stack up charges of corruption. I kind of think of it as a little baby static shiv, kind of.
Yep.
But offering him some extra magic damage and pushing power. So he is going to take this alone into the bottom lane and try to stave off the Deft and Clearlove push on this tower. So Newbee just moving so much better organically around this map.
And the early game sort of macro play has always been strong. Deft coming in here, misses the Peacemaker as V has to flash out of the way. Clearlove looking for a knock-up, gets it there as Deft doing a lot of damage. Dade moving over, trying to pick him up as Clearlove tanking the turret now. Never move. Has to be flashed there from Deft, but he picks up the kill. Turret falls down in the mid lane as EDG looking to grab even more. Nice shield comes out as Dade's being caught out of position. Mako control of these team fights with the Karma, and Clearlove picks one up as well.
So they pick up 2 kills. They manage to trade second tier tower, but Newbee are not done. They're looking for the inhib tower at 20 minutes, and Clearlove is here to respond.
Yeah, and Mouse just always gets the short end of the stick here as he's tagged by another Q. This turret is not long for the world. The kickback comes out as the Trundle throws down the subjugate, but gets stunned up, and there is just too much damage. Clearlove a little bit late to the party, and the base is broken, but you can see it's broken on the other side of the map as well. Mouse just saying, all right, well, I guess I'm going to be sacrificed this game. The rest of my team are going to try and carry me through. As you can see, it is going to be the inhibitor turrets traded.
Okay, so again, where EDG are strong, it's in their bot lane. Deft and Mako, they had the advantage. Clearlove was constantly down there, shadowing underneath them, making sure that they weren't going to get ganked, foiling Swift at every turn, despite the initial kill on Deft.
Yeah.
But they used that strength to try to put down V, who still has a massive CS lead over Mouse in that top lane, 114 to 173, and effectively both teams are just kind of exploiting each other, whereas Deft and Mako have to respond to V, but Newbee are making sure that they're continuously punishing Mouse.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But as all this was going on, it was Scout free pushing there in the mid lane as well. So they got 2 turrets moving up mid. EDG also able to clear out the up to the inhibitor turret in the bottom lane. So sort of as the dust settles here, it's just an extra turret going over to EDG. So despite the fact that Newbee looked good in their decision making, things still going okay as Dragon has respawned. It is going to be an Ocean Drake there as the ult flies through. Lots of poke damage coming out from EDG. They want this Dragon.
He managed to zone them off initially, but there's still plenty of fight left in Newbee. It's simply face-checking into Fog of War and trying to get through these Caitlyn traps.
Oh my god, so much damage out of Deft with that newly completed Infinity Edge. As Swift not going to be able to get any steal, and now he's in no man's land. Clearlove tunneling over the top. Deft almost left on his own there as Scout was just doing his very best to stave off everyone else. Safeguard, Swift trying to get himself to safety. V in there as well. Never Move going to stop Mouses. There's the Emperor's Divide. V delivered to the team. Is Swift going to miss another Q, unfortunately? Zhonya's comes out from V, but it's not going to be enough. He's 1 versus 5. He lasted longer than he probably should have, as Scout is actually getting tormented to death. That it is going to be the pick off of the top laner there for EDG.
And that means that V will pay for Swift's sins, try to get his jungler out from behind enemy lines and trades his life. But Ocean Drake over to EDG as well as the Cloud Drake there. So they have the initial movement speed, which is 15, and then some added regen, which I'm actually a big fan of the Ocean Drake.
I was going to ask you about this.
So the cool thing about Ocean Drake, especially as you start getting more and more of them, is that they adjusted it on the 6.10 patch, so it's out of combat. So you must not take damage for 5 seconds from champion, monster, or tower, and then the regen starts to kick in. as I'm trying to explain it, they're like, replay.
Yeah, nice movements there from Swift to get himself out of the way of the Emperor's Divide, but otherwise it's just EDG with better positioning around the Dragon.
So the important thing to take away from the Ocean Drake is how it's going to affect your jungler and how it's going to affect your support. Now that regen over time can actually mean a lot in terms of keeping them in or on the map and opening up space for them to look for added roams or added advantages to look for deep vision.
Yeah, never sort of being forced to go back as well. So whenever you go back to base, it's to buy, it's to get mana back, something like that. You can never get chunked out and have your enemy team sort of capitalize on it. I do like that aspect of the Ocean Drake a lot.
And that's the thing that I want to keep an eye on, is this idea of, as more Ocean Drakes are picked up, how the teams are utilizing them, and if we see supports and junglers start to stay longer on the Rift because of it, and what comes of those actions, be it a roam or a gank or extra deep vision.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, Dade actually going to get tagged out here. Happy saying, well, I don't actually have any lifesteal yet. You can probably take that one, Dade. He is going to do so. Has died a couple of times this game, but he's been playing quite well as far as that farm game is concerned. Still ahead, despite the fact that he lost a couple of his towers. There's going to be the Riley's Crystal Scepter completed, as well as that perfect Hex Core. You mentioned the fact that, you know, the item build didn't change all that much. Actually has two very unchanged items at the moment.
And the fact that his damage has been moved over time a little bit more. Obviously, the ticks have been expanded, as well as trying to keep everyone in the duration of the Chaos Storm to get that big damage potential out of it. Because Riley's is still a core of Victor, and because Riley's is still so cost efficient, I actually think that's relatively easy to do if you're playing around choke points, which, if EDG look at Baron, there's plenty of choke points to play with.
Yeah, certainly not unlike EDG to have a look at that Baron. As there is a ward in the back of the pit. Newbee would be well aware of what's going on here. Swift takes a few auto attacks here from Deft. Pink Chroma Deft there as well on the Caitlyn. Like it, like it. Still ahead in farm, but not by much. Happy has been playing quite well this game. 1-0-1 now on the Lucian. Able to pick up a lot of what Newbee have been able to do. 25 minutes is about to tick over here right now. And it's 1,000 gold the lead for EDG. About nothing here, as they are one turret in the lead as well. I mean, as far as standing gold is concerned, it means that these teams are pretty much even across the board. And that has a lot to do with the 60 CS lead in the top lane.
It absolutely does, although looking at the itemization, I don't actually think that Trundle's in that much danger. I mean, the split push option is not available for him, but when we looked at this composition, it wasn't necessarily unlocking Mouse. And even if you look at EDG as a team, their identity isn't in a split pusher. Even with Koro, that wasn't when they were strongest. It was utilizing Trundle, utilizing their top laner as kind of a peel and a frontline tank for them. And this composition works best when Trundle's there, adding that pillar, making sure that no one can get on top of Deft, and allowing Scout and Deft to run rampant.
Yeah, and that's what this comp really wants to do. Of course, we mentioned the consistent DPS of both Caitlyn and the Azir is something they will have no trouble in doing. Deft, of course, playing quite well in these team fights at the same time, always able to get a lot of damage down. That last Dragon fight was all about the Caitlyn, the fact that Renan's Hurricane's really helping him out as far as getting everyone low from a very safe distance.
So yeah, they're going to set up for this. Obviously, the easiest tower for EDG to take on the map right now is going to be that last standing outer tower on top. Dragon will be spawning in 1 minute 26 seconds. So they have a very small window of time, about a minute, where they can prep for this and possibly go for the objective.
Whoa, okay, and the votes are in here for EDG versus Newbee as well. 85% still believing in this EDG roster that has changed up their solo lanes. Of course, if you don't remove Clear Love, I have a feeling you're still going to keep the fans.
But that's massive. I mean, Newbee, formerly known as QG, were pretty much on top of the world for the majority of the spring split. And you have to think, theoretically, at Doinbe's best and at Dade's best, Dade is still the upgrade over Doinbe.
Oh, most definitely.
He got to be second best player in the world only because the guy in his position was the best player in the world.
In any position. Well, that's, hasn't yet to be proven, but the turret is going to fall down. A teleport's going to come in, though, as EDG getting 5 members strong, trying to keep control of Deft here in Newbee, but nice pillar comes out from Mouse. Just keeping everyone back. It's almost like a fortress situation as Swift is going to get a kick. Scout's being caught out of position, but the heal comes down. Swift is going to fall as Deft locks down the first kill in the team fight. Nice ult comes out from Moore, but there's the Empress Divide. Massive damage out of EDG, and Mako keeping everyone up. V, he's hard to kill, but not that hard when there's 5 against 1. Oh my god, only Scout falls, and EDG with a massive team fight that's still going. V is taking a long time to die. Ravenous Flock is pretty good at that. But EDG will now break open the base, and he might be able to even get 2 inhibitors from this, possibly the game. It was an ace, of course.
Massive misstep from Newbee right there. The biggest issue was the fact that the Chaos Storm went down and pretty much no one took damage from it. And as soon as that big spell is down, then V was finally in position with the TP to come in from behind, and it was too little too late. Even if you manage to hit the hard CC, which is so lacking on Newbee's composition, there's nothing else to follow up other than perhaps a Victor laser.
Yeah, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is 28 minutes into the game, so everyone is going to respawn in
damage
time.
Dealt in last fight. The fact that Victor's damage is so low is a huge issue. And it was because that Chaos Storm did not connect with anyone.
Well, Ocean Drake number 2 is now going to go down. As Clearlove's looking at that one, it will be 3 dragons to none here in favor of EDG. If your memory isn't helping you out too much, it is a Cloud Drake and 2 Ocean Drakes they have picked up so far. Newbee with absolutely none. And that's going to be a lot of out-of-combat movement speed. It means that they will be able to start off this Baron and then peel off it, get all their health back, go back, start up the Baron, peel off, get all their health back. It's just going to be a bit of a war of attrition here for Newbee. And EDG with a lot of flexibility.
I mean, the biggest mentality was that the Ocean Drake effectively translated into a poke compositions dragon of preference there. But again, I stand really firm on this idea that it's really going to impact the supports and how long they're able to stay on the map, and then what that opens up in terms of roams, ganks, and extra vision. Yeah.
That's exactly right. We are actually, there it is. So 2 Oceans and a Cloud. As Mouse throws down a pillar here, they're just trying to get everyone away from this inhibitor as Deft standing very safe, traps her down, never move, doesn't find anyone. That is going to be the Mantrid shield there out of Mako, just keeping everyone up, everyone healthy. As Swift trying his best, looking for an opening, but they just can't find one. There is so much range in this EDG squad, and so much peel. In 3 members, I mean, you've got Rek'Sai, Trundle, and Karma just constantly peeling for massive DPS threats.
And what started out in early game is Newbee doing a good job playing reactive to kind of EDG and where they were strong and trading inhib tower for inhib tower. It's just been a couple of really key fights and loss of dragon control that have started to put Newbee in the hole.
Well, we'll see whether they can pull anything out of the bag. Gold, of course, not too much of a big deal here, because if they manage to actually win some sort of team fight, which, you know, when they were QG, they were known to be able to do from a very long way down, we could see them just pick up a lot of those turrets, get everything back to normal, see where they can snowball things out this way. Of course, late game on this current patch can be very punishing if you make any mistakes. But with all of the extra dragons, with all the extra control that EDG have managed to pick up now with 2 inhibitors down, this Baron buff now going to be the option. They're in so much control this game.
It's just been very clinical League of Legends from EDG. We talked about how they had like a window of opportunity of about a minute before the next dragon was coming up, so they made sure to contest for that top tier tower because it was the easiest one to dive. They got a massive team fight off of it. It snowballed into a top inhibitor, rotated down into the dragon. Because they're playing across from the top inhibitor, they take the bottom inhib. Now that they have bottom inhib, they can start playing around Baron, which that is completely warded. And now it's kind of like siege them, wait for these big super creep waves to push in, and either they decide to pull the trigger for the dive here, or they can pull back onto the Baron.
Yeah, utilizing the shields here to tank up the turret, get a few cheeky auto attacks down. Deft doing the very best he can. Has a lot of attack speed right now in 2 attack speed items. And now they're just setting up for this siege. So many traps down, not a whole lot of entrances into this turret. And you can see that is the last inhib turret falling down for EDG. Oh, Swift looking for a flanking play, but loses half of his health for it. Dade as well now off to the side as Clearlove looking for a way in. Scouts around the side. Mako gonna get caught by the Never Movers. You can see more right in amongst it. Swift has closed the gap, and look at how far Deft is away. Scouts falling down. Dade has got the damage this time, but V completely out of mana. Never Move not gonna find it, and EDG still set up as a unit, despite the fact that they're a man down.
And that's the big thing. It's kind of like a boulder. You can't get into it. I'm gonna say turtle.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
We talked about EDG. What makes them strong at team fighting was the fact that Clearlove and Koro, the little arm can be, is that Clearlove and Koro were such amazing frontliners about setting a line of scrimmage and being that big, bulky tank line to allow Deft to create all of this damage. And it still holds true. You see Newbee, they're constantly looking about how to attack. Swift's swinging onto the side. He's trying to find the insect. V on the other side trying to catch Deft. Yeah, he eventually gets back on top of him, but it's too little too late. No one else can follow up on it.
Yeah, I'm sort of like watching EDG just there. I mean, makes you go back and think about basketball a little bit. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but it's like a really expertly played zone defense where they're all sort of positioned around Deft, who's playing as sort of the center, and everyone's sort of trying to get in, but they just can't because they're so robust, able to move around each side of the court / rift.
Actually reminds me a lot of 2014 EDG. 2014 EDG had this reputation of being baby blue after Samsung blue. They would take games really late and they would just have like these amazing team fights where it was all about control. This is almost a completely different roster. In fact, the only remaining member is Clearlove from that, but it's a very
Deft
similar
actually
style.
played on Samsung blue though.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, adult blue.
He was a good replacement for Name.
Damn right. He's playing very, very well this game, despite the fact that with all of the farm that's been thrown at Newbee, Happy has been able to pick up a fair bit of it, ahead by about 20, but not too worried there as Deft, as he's almost towards his 4th major item, not including the boots, and the Baron is going to be started off. A lot of damage available here from EDG, as Sonic Wave's not going to find anything. Swift doesn't want to go too far in there, as EDG just waiting. He steals it! Not sure how that even happened, as Swift just proves that he still has his smite button exactly where he wants it. Newbee may have just bought themselves some time.
Huge play from Swift right there. Okay, not huge.
How did he even get into range?
Because he queued in. So it wasn't on the Baron, because he didn't do it with the execute damage. He actually just did it with the smite, because he queued in onto a member of EDG, then just hooked in and got it
But he got Empress divided straight away. I didn't even think that he closed enough distance, but EDG, they're upset about this Chaos Storm onto Deft actually, but Shield's coming in. Still taking a fair bit of damage from it. Might actually need a little bit more as the Q comes out from Swift. He's trying to set something up, but after the kick, they can't quite find their way in. The zone defense still working.
Okay, let's reevaluate. 2 inhibs just came up. Baron is available.
V wants a flank, has full mana right now. Never Move, doesn't find anyone. Torment for a little bit of poke. As now Newbee just trying to get all the flanks out of all the sides. You can see the culling flying through. Lots of damage onto EDG, but they're holding strong. Deft as well might have found V. The last auto attack not going to be quite enough, as Happy cannot be up that far as the low range Lucian, as everyone may need to just go back to base. At least one inhib is going to fall down. Another to follow immediately. And EDG, just with super creeps alone, take one of them, and then the rest of the team with the siege take down another. So Baron will be helping with the counter siege now.
This is such a cool composition from EDG. It's not like it's like 2 massive tanks in front of you and they just can't shred the tanks, because Lucian has a tank shredding build. That's the other cool thing about the Black Cleaver Ghostblade, is it's so effective at shredding through tanks.
Yeah, now he's got the Last Whisper item as well, so he's massive.
It's simply that Newbee can't reach them.
Yeah.
It's effectively like one guy with a really long arm just holding the other guy at like his forehead. And just like, you want the ball, you can't get the ball.
I like this. There's lots of ball game references here. I'm beginning to understand. But you can see, I mean, there is nothing in this gold lead. Newbee is still absolutely fine if they can sort of reconsolidate, make sure that they just sit back, turtle up, maybe as EDG are doing. I mean, they're the aggressive turtle right now, whereas Newbee have to actually sit in their base and just try and stop the onslaught.
They have such limited options about how they get a hold of EDG. I mean, again, your hard CC is you're looking entirely at Swift.
Yeah.
And then V trying to find a flank. Swain's not terribly good at a flank. I mean, obviously he wants to be in the middle of people, but again, you're competing against the likes of Karma's speed, Azir's repositioning, the unburrow displacement from Rek'Sai, and then Trundle. Hello, Pillar.
Yep.
I'm a troll. Get screwed. There was a dance that went with that.
Once again, some mantraed movement speed here out of Mako, just trying to get Deft around as quickly as possible.
It goes back to this idea that movement speed is so important, I think, in this meta, just because everyone's slower, and they literally just can't move fast enough, as there's the flash forward.
Yeah, massive flash there out of Moore. He's trying to go for the desperation play, but he falls down for it. V with a decent flank as Empress Divide, going to get him out of position. You can see Deft and Scout utilizing this, but Deft is going to fall down. Dade picks up the kill, now trying to do the best he can. Scout falls down. So much of the damage is now dead from EDG, and they're scattering to the hills. Mouse able to create some space there from Clearlove, but that is 2 Nexus turrets that are going to fall down as all of this has happened. As far as PvE League of Legends is concerned, Newbee going to have to play a lot of it.
So think about the extreme circumstances in which Newbee finally got their composition to work correctly against EDG's comp. They effectively had to flash right on top of them, as well as get the perfect flank TP into another flash to win. which means that they're so reliant on those summoners to win team fights, and this is why they're in the situation that they're in now, is because it's too little too late. It's actually, I think, Dade with big plays here.
Yeah, Dade actually did a whole bunch of work. Look at how stacked they are for this Chaos Storm.
Yep. Finally gets in the choke point, just deletes Deft right there with the laser, then has a really nice Chaos Storm. No one's helping out poor Scout here. He's on the back. He's got a giant bird on his face.
Yeah, not something that you want, but Newbee unable to find anything from this, of course. With 2 inhibitors down, they have to play defense. And with the fact that their Nexus is now completely bare, they have to be very, very careful. Sweeping out the base going to be a massive priority.
Likewise, Elder Dragon will be up and available for next spawn.
Yep.
Which means that it will be a 1.5 increase on 2 Ocean Drakes as well as a Cloud Drake for EDG, or a single Cloud Drake for Newbee.
Yeah, you may have seen the icon, ladies and gentlemen. It was an Ocean Drake on your screen, but unfortunately that is incorrect. It was, in fact, a Cloud Drake. So not necessarily the most powerful. Out-of-combat movement speed is good, most definitely, but when you're sitting in your base, like Newbee are doing, they don't necessarily need that out-of-combat movement speed that much, plus there's a million minions to kill, keeping you in combat indefinitely. Is now Pinkward going to fall down? Deft clearing things out. Hasn't changed his build at all for a very long time. Of course, wants a Bloodthirster, wants a Mercurial Scimitar, and that is very large amounts of money that he is required to have in order to complete both of those off. So in a bit of a rut at the moment.
So much respect from EDG to just try to continuously flood Newbee's base as opposed to rocking up to the mid inhib and trying to contest that. Again, you have to think there's pretty much every gap closer down on the side of Newbee, save for V's flash into that top lane. He doesn't have his TP, so he can't pull another flanking play with his home guard advantage like we saw last time. So I actually think it's a perfect window of opportunity for EDG to try to contest that inhib because they don't have the hard engage capabilities anymore. But they're saying, no, we're going to play it really safe. We didn't like the role of the last team fight. Let's wait for the Dragon. Let's wait for the Baron. And let's do this clean. That might be a bit of an error.
Yeah, well, there's also, the last time that they team fought as well, Newbee were able to find their way in. You can see that massive gold lead just no longer even at all present.
This game has been super close.
Yeah, it's completely tied up. And the fact that it's 11 turrets to 5
Exactly,
is
that's
ridiculous.
the big thing, is the big tower discrepancy. But that goes back to the farm. Look at V still, 341 to 204. But that said, a super farmed Swain versus an under-farmed Trundle isn't translating to any sort of lead in terms of this actual game.
Yeah. Ravenous Hydra actually being completed next here for Mouse. He wants to actually be a damage threat in these fights.
Or split push.
Yeah. Well, you can see now, it is just Deft trying to get some damage onto Moore. Does have the red buff, of course. And they are just able to clear out minion waves so incredibly effectively, stifling Newbee's ability to actually move anywhere and create anything.
This is also the point in the game where Lee Sin, we talk about kind of his power curve as a roller coaster. You know, he starts really early game, he's super strong, he's Lee Sin, I got the dual potential.
Yeah.
Then it kind of comes mid game, it's, Lee Sin, I kind of wish I had something else on my team.
Yep.
Super late game when those death timers are incredibly punishing. Lee Sin, all it takes is one person being out of position, trading your life for that Azir, trading your life for that Caitlyn, and it's all worth it.
Yep, that one kick.
And Swift, I mean, if anyone's going to get it.
Well, yeah, he's already saved so much of the game by stealing away that Baron. If you remember the situation, of course, if there was a Baron buff for EDG, that Siege would have just been a dead base for Newbee. But they managed to utilize that Baron in order to keep the defense up. And now all of their inhibitors are back. Newbee now have an opportunity to move out of their base, create something where they can. Look at Dade. 435 CS right now. Sitting in his base, just clearing things out. Almost 400 CS for Happy at the same time. And V, that's a severe flame horizon of 140 approximately.
Looks like they're going to continue to try to siege for this inhib, not turn towards any monster objectives.
Yeah, Mantra comes in. Sun turret's been set up here as well. EDG
should be
they
noted.
Want to break something.
We talked about last time, EDG kind of had this window where Newbee didn't have any of their flashes available. Every single summoner is up. They can look for the home guard. They can look for the flash engage.
Well, the Culling's there as well. Deft actually taking half of his health bar. Dade was trying to
Swift's
find a way.
behind.
Swift, he looks for a kick. Kicks Mouse into the enemy team as the Chaos Storm has gone down. Scout relatively effectively placed right now. Uses a decent ultimate there as V right in the back line. Zhonya's is now down though, and Deft moves out of the way of the never move. They picked up the top laner, and there are such low health bars on Newbee. Unfortunately, they just haven't been able to find it. The flash knockup gets Dade. And that is so much gone for Newbee. It's just the bottom lane of Pekko and Moore, or Happy and Moore. And the Nexus is going to fall down. What a game one in the LPL as EDG were able to win in the end.
Brilliant final team fight from Deft in particular. He was able to survive the storm, weather the storm, if you will, long enough.
The Chaos Storm.
As well as V placing himself right in front of Deft, using the Zhonya's Hourglass while he's in ultimate as pretty much a zoning Hourglass to keep Deft in between the Sun turret, but it didn't matter.
Zhonya's Hourglass. I like it a lot.
I see. I got you.
Yeah.
Didn't matter though. Scout was able to get it done in terms of the damage, and no one was there for follow-up on the side of Newbee.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to look at this Newbee squad. Though, honestly, like towards the mid to early late game, things were going awfully for this team. I mean, they lost tower after tower. I mean, that sort of mid-lane tower trade that they did where they were trying to take down the bottom inhibitor just did not go well at all. But the fact that they just held on, tried to extend the game as long as possible, managed to get to a relatively stabilized position, definitely a good thing for this team. We'll see whether they can take anything to EDG in game number 2. But this comp from EDG was beautiful.
Yeah. Huge credit to whoever's drafting for EDG right now.
Yeah,
I really like the composition.
Yeah.
Again, making use of the fact that everyone's pretty much slower, that Newbee didn't have any sort of tools to get on top of them, to get into those backlines, or to find the follow-up when Swain or Victor did manage to reach back there with damage.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, I like that you mentioned drafting here, of course. Oh my goodness, there it is. You did see, I mean, there were Sand Soldiers there trying to keep him out, but just not quick enough on the fingers there for Scout. Really beautiful steal. As that was another team fight that Newbee were actually able to take out. So Swift playing a very, very good Lee Sin, but unfortunately at the end there, it was just EDG having all of this added control. The fact that their late game scaling heroes just outclassed the side of Newbee just that little bit. And with the fact that they put together this beautiful team comp, I mean, no more Rapid Star here drafting for EDG. It's a sort of a different option now. And whoever it is, massive credit.
We'll have to check, because I actually thought I spotted Rapid Star behind them, but I'll double check on who's behind them on the coaching staff.
That, no longer any more Rapid Star. If it was, credit to Rapid Star. That was amazing.
No,
really, really beautiful.
It was a very creative draft. I did like some of the champions that were coming out of Newbee as well. Kind of, if we're going to look at credit to EDG, also credit to Newbee. I like the fact that Victor was a priority picked up. Seeing Lucian, obviously seeing that Korean tank shredding build with the Black Cleaver and the Ghost Blade coming out, just kind of questionable. You know, we saw the Swain. I kind of get the idea. Obviously, Swain was able to put down Trundle quite heavily in lane. We saw that big CS discrepancy. But again, it goes back to this idea that what does the CS advantage on Swain really mean versus the Trundle being behind? Because Trundle was never going to be put into a side lane for a split push. Can Trundle do that? Absolutely. That's one of kind of the strengths of that champion. But how EDG used Trundle and how they use Mouse, it was never going to be a split push. It was always going to be that disengage 5v5 option. And I think that's where Swain really fell short, despite having the lead that he did.
Yeah, I actually find it really interesting, sort of using the Trundle instead of necessarily that tank shredder. It's more, let's just use him as another support, which they did to great, beautiful effect. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be game 1 down. Game 2 going to be coming up right after this break.